The screams. Yes, so Hairless here. Today we are back with a Patreon request. Thank you to Anna for this one. This is BTS and it's a live performance of their song called Magic Shop. It's my second BTS reaction. This one was written by one of their members, JK, Jungkook. I've done a few videos to his solo works before, not as part of BTS. This was apparently inspired by the autobiographic novel that was called Into the Magic Shop, and it was by a neurosurgeon, Dr. James Doty. Now, I have very kindly been given some context to the song, some background information. It describes the magic shop as a place of refuge for those who've suffered heartbreak of sorts, and as a place of healing and love for the lonely and for those who might be suffering mentally and emotionally. I've been told, therefore, that this song was a great comfort to loads of BTS fans, especially those who were going through some pain of their own. So, based on this, I'd expect the song to be kind of uplifting, although it could take the opposite approach and really hone in on the emotional side of things. So really, I have no idea what type of song it might be. Are we going to get some juicy harmonies and modulations like we saw in House of Cards, or like we also saw in Jimin's Lie? Or will things be a bit more straightforward? It looks like another song with some of the lyrics in English, again as we've seen before, and hopefully I'll be able to see some of the members I've not yet seen. So without further ado, let's get straight into it.
Okay, let's get it.
망설이던 걸 알아 진심을 말해줘 결국 다 훔터들러 돌아오니까 힘을 내란 뻔한 말은 하자는 거야 난 내게 들려줄게 했어 내가 멀었어 이 길 그랬잖아 믿지 못했어 이길 수 있을까 이 기적이 아닌 기적을 우리가 만든 걸까 난 여기 있어도 네가 내게 다가오신 거야 I do believe galaxy 듣고 싶어 너의 멜로디 너는 하수의 별들 너의 하늘과 너 어떻게 숨어쉬 난 설마 끝에 내가 너 찾았으면 잊지마 넌 철벽 끝에 서있던 내 마지막 이유야 내가 내게 싫은 날 사랑하지는 싶은데 문을 하나 만들자 너의 맘속을 다 기분을 결코 들어가면 이곳이 기다릴 거야 믿어도 괜찮아 That's all you ready? Put your hands in the air
Well, okay, so there we go, some rapping. I mean, there's a lot to talk about from what we've just heard. We're about 1 minute and 45 seconds in. So I think let's just go back through it and do some analysis. If you don't want to hear my analysis, go to the timestamp. At the very start, I'd love to know what JK is saying here. The subtitles weren't working. We did get this cool a cappella opening, a kind of call and response style with the audience. As well as just being audience participation, they're actually also laying the harmonic foundation for the song, what we're going to hear. JK is singing this, outlining an F-sharp major chord. And then when an instrument comes in, quite synthy sounding, we really hear that root note, the F-sharp. Gee, look at that crowd, all those lights. I did ask about this in my reaction to Lie. Do check that out if you haven't already. I thought that was a really interesting song card up here, because the colours in that were crazy, these blues and these reds. So it's cool to see them in a bit closer detail. Alright, so when the music comes in, there's some very interesting stuff right from the off. The beat is subtle yet quite heavy. It's that bass drum type sound. If played loud enough, it can shake your body. But the music is softer. First, we get this chord. I've listened to it a few times and I can't 100% confirm what I'm hearing because of the type of sound it is in the harmonics, but in my head I've constructed an F sharp chord, just like JK was outlining earlier. So this is note number 1, but also we have the supertonic, which is note number 2, this one. That's what I'm hearing here, and this is a nice chord. It's used quite a lot in music. I've spoken about it in many of my previous videos, and it's quite recognizable. It's a very subtly dissonant chord, so yeah, that's what I'm hearing there. But, you know, we're still very obviously in F sharp. Then we get that other arpeggiated motif coming in. It's very quick though. Those notes together make up. And that's very interesting because of this note clashing with this note. If we bring this note up, it is still an F sharp chord though. Just this note, the clash note, which is note number 7 of the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's called the major 7th version. So this note now is the dissonance. So if we just quickly summarize what we've just heard already, and the song has only just started. The a cappella opening, outlining F sharp major. Then that chord just before this motif comes in. Still an F sharp chord, but with this extra dissonant note, note number 2. And then that arpeggiated motif, the quick one. It's these notes. Still an F sharp chord, but now a different type of dissonant version. It shows how you can just add in one note to get some harmonic variety in there. Even though the chord underneath, so the harmonic foundation, is the same. It's still this F sharp. There's also another motif that we hear several times that comes in immediately after the quick rising arpeggiated motif. Moving in the opposite direction. Instead of going up, it's coming down. So in F sharp, which is note number 1, those notes are notes number 5, 4, 3, 2, and then it stops. It doesn't go down to note number 1 here. Why not, if this is the chord we're hearing? Surely it would make sense to complete the motif by returning to this first note, the root note. Well, next time we hear it, it does go down to that note. But the chord underneath it now, the harmony has changed. So instead of that F sharp chord, we now have this D sharp minor. Those two chords are actually related to each other. This was the first one here. This was the second one here. We don't need to worry about what this is. All that is showing is that both of them share the same sharps in the scale. Both of them use all of these notes. And as we saw, this is how similar they are if we move from the first chord to the second chord. So it's funny how when they do finally complete this falling motif, it's when this is no longer note number 1, because now we're in this chord, where it's note number 3, which people might argue is less significant than being note number 1. Okay, so if we move forward a bit, overall things are pretty simple. We're not hearing much in terms of instrumentation, there's not loads going on. We have some smooth singing, and then we move into the rapping. I've not heard BTS rap before. I've heard JK, I've heard Jimin, and the vocal line in House of Cards. Do check out my reaction to that if you haven't already. It was my previous BTS reaction card up here. It seems the crowd go wild for the rapping parts. When the rapping starts, listen to them. So do fans tend to prefer the rapping parts, or is it a fairly even split between the singing and the rap? Then we get one of the lines that's sung in English, or said in English, and that's "I do believe your galaxy." So they're talking about space. Everything kind of does remind me of space. Their outfits, these black suits with white sparkles, like space and stars. We have the dark audience sitting there with all these white lights everywhere, like stars, and we have this moving graphic in the background. And even the music. As I said, there's not that much going on. So the few lines or instruments that we do hear, they stand out a bit more. We have this very high kind of floaty flute sounding thing. It's very synthetic sounding. It just reminds me of space for some reason. Yeah, and with rapping, the lyrics are important. I think the lyrics are really nice. I'm curious to know if everyone watching this thinks the lyrics are more powerful when spoken through the rap or through the singing, which is a bit more musical. Personally, I don't listen to much rap. I know some. I grew up with a little bit, but in general, I don't listen to it. So yeah, I'm interested to hear everyone's thoughts. Jin looks so young. Anyway, yeah, really nice voice he has, as we saw in House of Cards. And of course, Jimin too, as we've seen with Lie as well. They're using Jimin here for a more powerful sound. Jin's verse just before, that was a bit softer. And Jimin with a more powerful sound here, he also gets a bit of melodic variation. Those two things work quite well hand in hand. And that's where we got to, so let's carry on. The screams of the audience, wow.
Let's go.
Interesting, so every time they go close to the camera, I guess that's being shown behind them on like the main screen. The audience seems to always really react when that happens. Yeah, I mean, let's go over what we've heard in that second section. I think there's about a minute and a half left or so. From where we carried on, we had JK singing and Jimin. They're so good at using the blended voice. It's a transitional place between your chest voice, your full voice, and your head voice. Because this melody they're singing is high for men, they go above a top C, which is the note that I call the kind of wow moment for operatic tenors. Obviously, being an operatic tenor is very different to this. Here, they're not using their full chest voices, but their blend, the smooth changes between the voices at these higher pitches. That's what makes the transition, not only between the voice types, but between those two singers themselves, really, really smooth. Sorry, that's crazy. They're spanning the whole arena, the whole stage, all the way across. Wow. Okay, so then we get him. I've not seen him before, so this is J-Hope, I believe. I had to use pictures online as references, and their hair colours are always changing. Anyway, according to Google, he is one of the rappers, one of the rap line. He is more singing here than rapping. And also a bit later on. It's a kind of speak singing, as I call it. There's a clear melody, there's a clear pitch, but it's not as musical as singing might be. Although, I mean, look, this is singing. He is singing. So is he a bit of a hybrid who does rapping and singing, or do they all do a bit of both? This bit here, though, it is lower than what we've been hearing before in terms of pitch. So it doesn't require as much power or melodiousness. Also, it's catchy. It's a repeated phrase. The same melody, the same sound in terms of the lyrics. They're all the same, whilst the only thing changing really is the harmony underneath. The chords are changing. And as we know, repeating something does tend to make it catchy if done well. I'm not sure what I make of these I bits. I can't tell if I find them catchy or not. Alright, so what I was saying earlier about Jin having the softer part before Jimin with the more powerful part. Now Jin gets the more powerful part, using his chest voice, his full voice. Then we get the "so show me" words again. Now it's much more noticeable hearing this line also down the octave. I wonder who is singing that part out of them, or if it's just part of the backing track. And the bass line too, kind of this wah 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 type sound. That must be a completely different experience, experiencing that there live. Again, it's one of those things that you'd kind of feel compared to me now who's just hearing it through my headphones. Seeing it live there with all the lights and everything, it must be so immersive. Alright, well, let's carry on until the end. Bass part. Yeah, those little light things that they hold, they're quite cool, aren't they? Well, they're very cool. So many people there, it's crazy. I can only imagine how loud those screams are. Alright, well, I just have a few more things that I'd like to go over before giving final thoughts at the end. So now we get him singing. I believe this is V. We had him at the start as well. His voice is quite dissimilar to Jin and Jimin in terms of the timbre when he's singing higher. From the little I've heard, I think that he is more naturally suited for the lower parts. I'm not saying he has a lower range, I don't know what their ranges are, but he seems naturally a bit lower set, especially compared to Jimin, who then comes in immediately after him. So that really highlights the difference between their two voices. And visually, it's nice how they all come together at the end compared to how they were across the whole arena stage earlier. I understand they have to because they're on a platform that sinks down, but it's still a nice sense of, coming together. I do find the concept of having designated rappers and designated singers quite interesting. I mean, it does completely make sense if you have 7 members, depending on the type of music you do. So on that note, my overall thoughts on this song. I think the lyrics are great, and the purpose of the song, it seems, as I spoke about in the introduction, is to help people through pain and things they might be going through, which is obviously a lovely thing. You know, it's really nice, so big kudos for that. I can see why this is a fan favourite, or so I'm told. That said, from the handful of songs I've heard from BTS or its members, this one is my least favourite from a musical standpoint only. We all have different tastes in music, and I'll explain why I feel this way. And I just say least favourite, not that I don't like it. When I first hear music, it's the musical infrastructure itself that appeals to me. I can't help it, I'm not actively listening out for it. It just triggers a reaction in my brain. You know, if you're in a shop or a cafe and there's music playing, that song will either catch my attention or it won't. That's just me, and I know we're all different and respond to music differently. With rapping, arguably the most important thing is the lyrics. If you remove the musical element, you remove the melody, then it's the words entirely that we're focusing on. In this song, I don't understand the words unless I'm watching with subtitles, so that probably plays a part as well. And the music as well. I thought the music in House of Cards and Lie especially was more interesting than in this song. With a setup like this though, with singers and rappers, they can literally cover any genre of music. And from the comments that I've seen and received, it sounds like BTS do have a massive variety of music out there. I mean, look, this is my second time hearing BTS ever, so I'm definitely keen to see more. Yeah, overall, I think it's quite a nice song. I completely understand why it's a fan favourite. I know the purpose of it, and I think it does a great job at that purpose. It is uplifting, it is happy, everyone in the audience was absolutely loving it. So comment down below other songs by BTS you'd like me to do in the future. Thank you again for this request, and thanks to everyone for watching. Would appreciate a like and subscribe. If you enjoy my content, want to support me, join the community, vote on future polls, you can do so by joining the Patreon or YouTube membership linked below, and I will see you next time.